Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very special guest, and I welcome back a very special guest. Fifth-year senior from the Bemidji State women's hockey team, Lindsey Featherstone, joins the pod. Welcome back to the podcast, Lindsey, and thank you so much for coming on. And how's everything going?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk again. Yeah, it's been good so far. Kind of
That's
wrapping up finals this season.
that's good to hear. Yeah, no, how's everything going for you? And you're about to wrap up the first half of the season. You have a weekend series this weekend against Minnesota State. So, but besides that, since that series hasn't happened yet during the time of this recording, how would you evaluate your team's performance so far?
Yeah, I would say that we obviously kind of had a tough start. I think someone said we had like the hardest or the third hardest schedule in the nation. Obviously, we started off the season with Ohio, Wisconsin twice, Minnesota, Duluth, and Clarkson, which at the time all of them were in the top 8 or 9. And so then obviously like we had the 4-game win streak. And so I think after this weekend against Wisconsin, there's some things that, we want to tweak and adjust before this last weekend of the first half. But yeah, I think we're kind of moving in the right direction. A lot of the older girls, younger girls are all playing with a lot of confidence, and we just got to end on a good note so that'll carry over into the second half.
Yeah, your team has improved significantly since last year, record-wise. So, what are some things that your team has done differently this year than to make those improvements for the season compared to last season, I guess?
Yeah, obviously I think we only won, maybe 1 or 2 games at all total last year. So I'd say just like our team dynamic this year has been awesome. It's been a lot different, a lot healthier, I would say. We've got older girls producing, younger girls producing, kind of getting it from all lines, from the D. We've had great goaltending. I think a big thing was just that mindset of we did not want a repeat of last season. And so even going on that stretch of I think it was an 8-game losing streak against some of these top teams, it was kind of, still reflecting back to us and adjustments that we had to make so that we can, get some points here this second half and try to make a run at it at the end of playoffs.
And last time I had you on the podcast, we were talking about the leadership that you wanted to bring to the team. You said that you wanted to set a good example for your teammates and for the younger players and try to be there for them. So I guess since the first half of the season is wrapping up, how would you evaluate your leadership skills, and do you think you've done a good job on that department of things?
Yeah, I would like to say that I think I have done a pretty good job. And I would say that, I think I talked last time how it was kind of an interesting dynamic having 4 of us come back, and then you had the 4 or 5 that would be seniors, and just kind of how our 2 classes would interact and create a strong culture for our last year together. And yeah, I think we've all done like a really good job of getting the younger girls involved and included, kind of setting the tone at practice, during games, kind of how we want to prepare and go about things, but also just making sure that they feel welcomed and included off the ice, and making sure that we have a lot of team bonding and just getting everyone on the same page. Because I think that was something that really lacked last year, and I think you could kind of see it translate to our on ice.
Is it easier this year, though, because, last year there were so many, protocols for the pandemic? Is it easier to try to get to know those freshmen and sophomores this year just because you don't have as many restrictions?
Definitely. We've actually talked about that a lot, just how different this year and this season have been. And even the sophomores have said that it's just crazy how many more friends the freshmen have, because the sophomores didn't get to meet anybody. That was kind of strict bubble, kind of on lockdown a lot. And so I think it was definitely more challenging last year having those COVID protocols, and you're quarantined every other week or something else happens. So it's kind of been fun just to, get that normal year that all of us fifth years kind of wanted.
Mm-hmm. Is it another thing I want to ask is you didn't expect to, I guess when you went into Bemidji State, you didn't expect to play for 5 years with Bemidji State. And now talking to the freshmen, is there a difference you've noticed between personalities from a 5th-year senior versus this year's freshman, just because the age difference is a little bit larger than you expected?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. We definitely joked about that. The oldest girl on our team turned 23 in September, and one of our freshmen was just turning 18 around the same time. And so we kind of joke about that. It really is a 5-year gap. But it's just fun. There's 9 of them this year, and so we kind of joke that it's kind of like the reincarnation of our class, because there was 9 of us. And it's just kind of fun to see how they've all progressed over the first couple months and interacted with the older girls. And they're fun, though. They can give it to us, and they can definitely take it too. So it's been a fun couple months so far.
Yeah, so since there are 9 of them, kind of similar to your your senior class, is there any of them that are kind of like you as a freshman? Like, do you relate to? Are they all like kind of like someone from that class?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of they've all have awesome personalities. They're all super fun. They're just funny to kind of watch. I know like Paige, BB, and I are we'll just kind of sit in the locker room and like watch them because they're like mannerisms and just like their little like quirky characteristics are so funny to us. But yeah, I think they've all done kind of just an awesome job of like integrating themselves into the team and just being themselves and feeling like they belong.
And how have the freshmen done hockey wise, adjusting to the team and learning the new systems?
Yeah, I think that they've all done awesome. Obviously, I think that with losing so many senior D last year, and I think we only lost one forward, but the freshman D have had to come in and play a big role right away and kind of meet those expectations that the coaches and the team kind of set for them. And I think they've done an awesome job, just kind of embracing that role, and whether that's 5-on-5, special teams, whatever it might be. And I also think the forwards, they've all kind of competed for a spot and they've given the older girls, a run for their money. And I mean, they're putting up points too, and that's huge. Getting, goals and points from all four lines. The D are getting involved. And like I said, having a sophomore goalie who kind of had to step up when our senior goalie went down, like that was big.
Hmm. And do you think that competition like is really beneficial just because nothing's a given and that kind of pushes you to become a better player in practice and then that translates in a game setting, obviously?
Definitely. I think, our practices just this year in general have been a lot more competitive, more focused than last year because, yeah, nobody is, complacent and nobody's kind of safe. I think that's something the older girls have learned too is just because you're a junior or senior doesn't mean that you're going to be playing every Friday or Saturday night. And so, I mean, kudos to the freshmen for kind of making it hard on the coaches to make those decisions and put together a lineup that they think will be successful. But they've all done an awesome job. And I mean, everyone that's playing definitely deserves their spot. So
Now, is it weird for yourself, and how different is it to not have your entire senior class not playing with you this year, just only having 4 of you guys compared to the 9?
it's definitely weird because obviously we were a big class. Like we'd been, I think, one of the biggest classes that they'd recruited. And I mean, 9 of us, but we were all super close and we all still talk a bunch, which has been fun. But it's definitely different. It's different that 4 of us are here. Obviously, Claire's tearing it up at Ohio State, and then you've got, other girls applying to med school or at dental school or working. And it's kind of weird that we're all just in different places in our lives right now. But yeah, I miss all of them. I think we're going to see Mac Lange in a couple days. Tina Campa came up for this weekend series against Wisconsin. Carol Worth is back in Bemidji in a couple days. So it's just been fun to, kind of see all of them doing what's best for them right now.
How weird is it to gonna see Claire in an Ohio State jersey when she comes back to Bemidji in February?
Yeah, no kidding. It was really weird in Ohio. I think it'll be even more weird, seeing her back in Bemidji and having her go to the visitor locker room. And I think it is the senior weekend. I'm pretty sure it's our last home series. So that's just kind of even more weird that it's our senior weekend. It's our last weekend actually playing at Sanford. And, she'll be on the other team, which is kind of weird. But like I said, she's tearing it up. And we're super happy for her.
You think she has to make like a cameo during that like the senior thing 'cause she was a part of your class. I think that would be kind of cool. I don't know if they can do that or not, but I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if they would, but
Mhm.
it would be fun. I think it'd be fun for all of us.
Just like a 30-second tribute video, something like that. I don't know. Like you don't really get to see that in college hockey, so I feel like that would be
Yeah.
cool.
No, it definitely would be very like NHL like.
Oh yeah, definitely. Standing ovation, stick tap, something like that. I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
No, I completely agree.
Now, hockey-wise, you were talking about how your team went on a 4-game winning streak before the Wisconsin series. So, what was the key for that winning streak, and how did your team try to maintain that consistency?
Yeah, I think it was kind of just coming off those 8 games that we weren't able to, score that many goals. We were giving up too many every game. And so, like the 2 games in Lindenwood and then that Friday night against St. Cloud, we had scored 4 goals every game, and that was huge for us. I don't think we did that at all last year. And then, like I said, we've, gotten scoring from first through the fourth line. The D are getting involved. The freshmen are putting up points. Sophomores are putting up points. One of the Lindenwood games, we had a power play goal, a shorthanded goal, a 5-on-5 goal, and an OT goal. And so I think it's been huge to kind of see scoring on special teams, 5-on-5, and also being able to kind of finish games, because that was something that we weren't able to do often last year. And so I think it gave a lot of girls, a lot of confidence going into the Wisconsin series. And obviously we didn't get the outcome that we wanted. And so I think kind of using that as fuel for this weekend against Mankato, because this is probably the biggest weekend we've played so far points wise. And it'll be really important going into the second half as well.
Yeah, that Lindenwood game, I feel like it was like 14 goals the second game or something like that. It was pretty crazy.
It was 4, both games.
Oh,
Yeah.
there was like one series that I remember where there was like 10 or more goals or something like that. I don't know if maybe I'm confusing it with another team or not.
That might have been Wisconsin. Maybe Wisconsin, or I think Wisconsin. I think when Mankato played them, it was 6-0 or 6 something.
Yeah.
But I think Wisconsin kind of ran up the score a bit when they
Yeah,
played them
no.
this year.
They do that sometimes, as you're aware of. So,
I do.
but speaking of Wisconsin, your team brought them in a shootout at LeBron, which is not an easy thing to do. Even though you didn't win that shootout, how important was that game, kind of motivation-wise, to know that your team is definitely capable of competing with some of the top teams in the country?
Definitely. I think that was a turning point for us. I think it just gave a lot of girls confidence, and I think it was kind of a reminder to all of us, especially the younger girls, that like we're a good team too, and like we shouldn't be intimidated or scared or fearful to play the number 1 team in the nation when we can give them a run for their money. So I think we definitely shocked Wisconsin that Friday, and obviously I think we kind of let up a bit for the Saturday game, and like I said, they'll run up the score. So I think just kind of that learning curve for the younger girls, and hopefully it'll pay off. And I think taking them into the shootout and getting a point from them was huge, because not that many teams have done it in our league. And that point, I think, will probably come into play come the second half and going into playoffs.
Now, does every team make the playoffs this year, or is it like last year, only like a certain number of teams can make the playoffs?
I think everyone makes it this year. The only one I'm not sure about is St. Thomas. I've heard different things, that since they've made the jump from D3 to D1, there might be like a penalty almost. But don't quote me on that. I'm not quite sure. That's just what girls were saying. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that shakes out. And then obviously the top 4 teams get home ice advantage. So getting home ice or getting up to, 5th at least would be our preferred situation. So obviously that point against Wisconsin will be huge. And then these 2 games against Mankato are going to be big, because right now they're 7 points ahead of us. So if we're able to kind of get things done this weekend, then we'd be going into break and they'd be only 1 point ahead. So.
And also, it's a home game as well, so you got to take advantage of those home games, just because I feel like home ice advantage in the WCHA is really critical to success in the postseason.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Obviously, you've got to take it. You got to get points every weekend, but especially at home, getting those points is huge. And we weren't able to do that last weekend against Wisconsin, and that needs to change against Mankato.
Now, kind of talking about Mankato and just that's going to be the only college hockey game for women's hockey in that weekend series. How cool is that to be the only teams playing? I feel like no one really talks about that, but I thought that was kind of cool. Just because all schools can't play for some reason during this week.
Yes, most schools are done. So we kind of talked about it. It's a bit different. It's a bit harder to be playing this weekend because everyone else is, at home or already on Christmas break, and we're still here not doing not doing much during the days. But at the same time, like we have a job to do, and like we get to be here and we get to be playing hockey, and finals are done tomorrow. So then we've got 3 or 4 days where hockey is the only thing we have to do, and that's fun. And I think just looking forward to the challenge this weekend and ending on a high note, because I think Christmas break will be a lot more fun if we kind of finish the job this weekend.
Oh yeah, especially since last year you didn't know how many games you're going to play, so you kind of have to just kind of enjoy playing hockey, even though every team's on Christmas break, I guess, right now. Still just enjoying that you get to play, because you just never know when's going to get taken away from you.
Definitely. I think that last year put that into perspective for everyone, just how quick a series or a couple series could be taken away. So
now, speaking of the playoffs, as a fan, when you think about every team making into the postseason, you're like, oh, that kind of ruins the regular season a bit, because I think it makes it more interesting to see like, oh, which teams will get in, which teams won't get in. As a player, what's your thoughts on all of that? And do you like how everyone makes the postseason, or do you think like there should be some kind of rule change regarding how the postseason works? I'm just curious, because I feel like no one talks to the players about it. It's always the coaches and fans.
Yeah, I think that I mean, our league has what, 8 teams now, and so I think it'd be kind of hard to say that only the top 4 teams are going to make the playoffs every year,
Hmm.
because I do think that the gap between the top teams and the bottom teams in our league is so small, and that I think any team could win on any night. And so I think that that's kind of the best part about playoffs in the WCHA is you have that 3-game series, best of 3, and an underdog could beat someone. And I remember our freshman year, we were the 5th ranked seed. We played at Duluth and we beat them. And that was kind of like a surprise, a shock to people. And I think that made, the final face-off even more exciting, was because people didn't expect us to be there. And so I think it's good for women's hockey because, like I said, that gap between the top teams and the bottom is so small in our league, and anyone can beat anyone. So I think it's fun. It adds excitement.
Oh yeah, definitely, and especially that year because I think Duluth couldn't make the tournament because they lost in the WCHA playoffs. So there's like other implications to it as well.
Yep.
Now, where's the final face-off going to be held? Is it like does it switch every year, or is it held in Ritter
I,
every year? I'm not
I
sure.
think it's normally held at Ritter every year just because it's like a central location,
Hmm.
I think. So that's where we played our freshman year, and I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it's been there since.
Well, it was there last year, so I just assumed it. I
Yep.
don't know if they like switched the host or not, or if it was
Yeah.
just in the
I
same
don't
town
think
every
I
year.
don't think they do,
No, okay.
because it's like the most central location for everyone.
I think that'd be cool though if they did switch it every year. Like I don't know, I feel like that'd be cool, to put it in LeBron
Yeah.
1 year, Ritter. I don't know. Do you think that'd be cool?
No, I do. I mean, that's what they do for, like Minnesota high school hockey. It's like the section championship game. They kind of rotate locations.
Hmm.
And I think that'd be kind of, fun, get a change of scenery, get different fans involved, kind of add some more excitement.
They do that for Hockey East, so that's why I thought that would be kind of
Yeah.
cool if they did it for the WCHA as well.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Now, speaking of kind of the tournament, obviously news was announced a couple of weeks ago that the NCAA tournament was going to be expanded for women's hockey to 8 to 11 teams. What was your thoughts on that announcement? And because I saw that there was kind of like a campaign with all you guys to kind of try to get that tournament to be expanded.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome. Some of us were actually just talking about that yesterday with our assistant coach, and just how big it is for the women's game. And it's kind of, the men's side of things, like they get a lot more than the women's side does. And it's kind of just demanding what we deserve. And there's so many really talented women's hockey teams, between the WCHA, Hockey, ECAC, every league has great teams. And so I think just getting more teams involved in the tournament, you're going to have more, highly competitive games. And it's going to help grow the women's game. You'll have younger girls coming out and watching more teams, get different players, some broadcasting time. And
Mhm.
I think it'll be awesome, this year and going forward. It's just a great move by the NCAA for women's hockey.
So I'm a bit confused on a few things. One, how is the format going to work with 11 teams since it's kind of an odd number, or since it is an odd number? And then number two, when is the new format going to be in place? They said it was either going to be this season or next season, but do you know when that announcement's going to be? I feel like you have more behind the scenes knowledge of how this thing's working out.
Yeah, I actually don't know what year, they're going to make the change. And I don't know if I mean, they obviously haven't announced it, so I'm not sure when that announcement is coming. And I'm not quite sure how it works with 11 teams, because like we kind of talked about that too. Like, why not just make it 12? Or if it's like the top seed gets a bye.
Hmm.
That's what they used to do in our league when we had 7 teams. It was always the first seed had a bye into the second round of playoffs. So I could see maybe something like that happening, but I'm not quite sure. It'll be interesting to see, how it plays out and how it kind of shakes things up.
Yeah, the reason why it wasn't to 12 teams was because they needed to make it even for the men's for some reason. There was like some like if there was 12 teams, there would have been with the percentage wise of how many collegiate teams are in D1 women's hockey. With the men's, it wouldn't be even. So there was like a whole reason why they couldn't go to 12. That's what I was reading.
Yeah, which I mean that makes a lot of sense, and that's where it all gets so confusing. Just all the Title IX stuff, and
Hmm.
having to have the same amount of stuff going, or teams, I guess, involved. So I would imagine that maybe it would be like, like I said, maybe like the first team gets a
That's
bye
what I
or
would assume
something.
too. Yeah.
I guess we'll
And,
see how it shakes out.
yeah, and how many teams get automatic bids now this year? That probably changes. Well, I feel like it's not going to happen this year. I feel like there's so many roller
Yeah.
coasters to kind of hurdle through to get to make sure what the format's going to look like, and also like which stadiums are going to host the games. I feel like they need
Mhm.
more time to kind of figure that out. That's why I think it's going to happen probably not this season, but the
Yeah, in the
next.
next. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like there's just a lot of things to, figure out and decide on so that it can run smoothly and be
Mhm.
efficient and entertaining and not super hectic and chaotic.
Oh yeah, no. There's been a lot of that in hockey. I feel like recently, so with the COVID pandemic, so I
Yeah,
think it's not a bad thing to kind of just take a step back and figure it out for next season.
no, I completely agree.
Now you get to play non-conference games this year as well. How refreshing is that to play other teams in different conferences? And do you notice any style changes of play, like from styles, or is it kind of similar to the WCHA?
Yeah, it's been fun. Obviously, we weren't able to do that last year. And so I think, having Clarkson come early on in the season was awesome. And they were obviously ranked at the time, and just seeing how, we can compete with them. And then, Lindenwood, that was another, fun weekend. We left on Wednesday. Obviously got to like spend Thanksgiving there. I would say the WCHA is definitely more physical. I know that's something that really impacted the games against Lindenwood. Just the referees in their league call everything, and we are not used to that. And so that obviously played a huge factor. I think there was like 15 minutes of penalties in one period because it
Yeah.
just got out of hand. But it's definitely fun just to kind of see where you compare and where our league compares to different leagues out east, or Lindenwood's in the CHA.
Yeah, it was an adjustment playing those games as well because obviously you have the freshmen who haven't played those teams, but the sophomores also aren't really used to playing out of conference games as well.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we forget that they didn't have a typical freshman year and they hadn't played an out of conference series either. But like I said, I think it was awesome. It was a good learning experience. Non-conference games, more girls get in the lineup, they get opportunities, and I think that's good too. Just kind of getting everybody on the same page, gaining confidence. That's big, and that comes in towards the end of the season. You want all your girls playing with confidence, and that's huge.
Now, one of my favorite games to watch was when your team beat Clarkson. I thought it was a great game. Talk about it from your perspective and what you took away from it, because it seemed like that was an important win to kind of, like, obviously against Wisconsin, you didn't get the result, but it still kind of like changed the momentum for your team. But actually beating a team like Clarkson, I think really helped your team as the season progressed for the first half.
Yeah, definitely. That Friday game we tied, and I'm pretty sure we were up 1-0 with 3 or 5 minutes left, and they ended up tying it. And we went into OT, and it ended in a tie. And I remember some girls, sitting in the locker room feeling pretty, content or complacent with having tied Clarkson because they were ranked. And the seniors and the fifth years and some of the upperclassmen just said, really good teams find a way to win. And like that was a game that we should have won. So nobody here should be content or complacent with having tied that. And so, like figure out like what you could do better and like come back tomorrow, and we need to find a way to finish it. And that's, what the mindset was coming into Saturday's game. And obviously we were able to. And I think it kind of shows everyone how good the league is and that the depth the league has. Obviously we weren't ranked nationally, but we're competing and beating, nationally ranked teams. And so I think that was big for our girls and just gaining confidence kind of moving into that stretch of games where then we had Minnesota, Duluth, Wisconsin again. And I think, that experience against nationally ranked teams is going to be really beneficial going into the second half.
Now, you also another thing for your freshmen and sophomores is they finally get to play with fans this year. For yourself, you obviously played with fans for your first 3 years, but is it nice to have fans back in the building? And do you think it makes the atmosphere or just playing in general much better than without a crowd?
Yeah, for sure. I think, being able to have friends and family back in the stands is awesome. I think it's fun for the sophomores to finally get their families in the stands and be able to be there. It's also just fun though. I know up in Bemidji this past weekend we had there's a youth girls tournament going on, I think U10s and U12s. And so Saturday's game, there was a bunch of young girls there, a bunch of different teams from all over the state. And I think that's awesome, growing the game and, getting more young girls in the stands, getting the community involved and just kind of giving the community something to talk about, like giving them something to watch and some entertainment. I think that's been huge.
Yeah, no, I think I went to my first hockey game in person back in October. I've been going to a lot. I'm trying to take advantage of as much as I can because you just never know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had this experience, but watching in warm-ups, I had like the biggest smile on my face. Like, thank goodness I'm like back in the arena. It's so much better going these games. And I don't know, it just felt like it felt much better to be there than watching through a screen just because you see more. I think it's more fun. I don't know if you as a player, first game warm-ups, you're probably like beaming because you probably felt the same way, I assume.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's been awesome as a player. It's also just fun. We've been able to go to the men's games when they've played at home, and that's fun. Just actually then getting able to be in the crowd again and going to a live sporting
Yeah.
event, because obviously it's so fun to play in, but it's also fun to watch and just like be back in that environment. And it's like a goalie makes a crazy save and the whole place goes insane. It sounds like someone just scored.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's definitely been fun. I think it's awesome for every team to finally get fans back in the stands. And yeah, I think it just adds, some excitement. And otherwise you're kind of trying to build your own energy, which can be really hard in a silent arena. So
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And then I want to kind of get back to one thing you mentioned. So in the Lindenwood series, you were talking about how your team took a lot of penalty minutes because the refs were more not as lenient with the physicality. So my question is, do you wish that there was more like the refs are less lenient about it? And what's your overall thoughts on checking in women's hockey? Because that's something I've been talking to about with a lot of players, and I kind of want to get your perspective on it because I went to my first women's hockey game a couple of weeks ago, and I feel like it's a lot more physical than people give it credit for. And it was a Hockey East game, and I feel like people don't really see Hockey East as that kind of a physical conference, as the WCHA is.
definitely, yeah, I think that Lindenwood series was kind of a wake-up call for us that, other leagues don't play as physical as us. I know that we were really shocked and thrown off by the calls that the refs were making, because we felt like we, hit each other harder in practice. And so it's
Hmm.
kind of just like, oh, what? Like, how do I go into the corner if I'm just going to get called every time I bump somebody? So I think the women's game is a lot more physical than it gets credit for. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets even more physical,
Hmm.
just because that kind of is how the game's been going, that direction. And, I think it's good. I think that girls can take a lot more than they're given credit for. I do think that if they want to kind of make that shift into letting girls hit, then like you kind of got to start at a young age, because boys start at a younger age and they're able to, learn how to properly give a check and receive a check. And I think if you know how to give it and take it, then you're able to, not get hurt. And then it just adds, some excitement to the game. But even if they don't change the rules and there's still no checking, I think that the women's game is really physical, because you can still go shoulder to shoulder, and that's totally legal in our league, but it's apparently not in others. We don't really know. But yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, just kind of the officials and how they make decisions based on whatever league they're reffing.
Yeah, I think the reason why there should be hitting is because of the refereeing aspect of it, because you can either get refs that are not lenient about it and like everything like you mentioned gets called, or you get refs that are super lenient about it and someone can just get laid out open ice and they won't call it. And I feel like there should be more consistency with refereeing, because I don't think a referee should determine how a game is played. Like you shouldn't like, oh, if you have this particular ref, you shouldn't be like, we're like, oh, we can't be physical, because that does change kind of the outcome of how the game is going to be played. So that's why I think there should be hitting, just from that aspect of things, just because I don't know, I feel refereeing should be consistent across the board in other conferences as well. And I feel like without the hitting, sometimes you don't get that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that there's definitely a disconnect, it seems like, between the officials in different leagues. And there's no, like you said, there's no consistency on how each league is kind of reffing. And it does affect the games. You look at our series against St. Cloud 2 weekends ago, and there was a couple 5-minute penalties. I think there was once again like 16, I think almost the whole second period was penalties. And so then, you're playing a lot of special teams, and that does affect the outcome of games. Or even this weekend against Wisconsin, we had a couple brutal calls, and unfortunately I think the goal they scored on the 5-on-3 really changed the momentum of the game, and it really had an impact. And so yeah, I think that there definitely should be more consistency within each league itself, but also across the board. Like there just needs to be more consistency with the officiating, because it's clearly not consistent. And I think that leads to, frustration. It impacts the game. It impacts the momentum. There's less flow, because it's like whistle after whistle, and then you're
Mhm.
killing, and then you're full strength. And I know that was something that we really struggled with in both the Lindenwood series and the St. Cloud series. Is you might like a killer might go a bunch, but you might only be with your line mates for 1 or 2 shifts a period. And how are you supposed to get anything going if you're always killing or always on the power play. Or
Hmm.
I do think it impacts the game a lot.
Like obviously if things get out of hand, like the refs need to get involved, but I feel like watching like some of your games, it doesn't get that badly. It's just like
Mhm.
it's just a few bumps and checks like that. I don't think that hurts anyone in my opinion. So I
Yeah,
think like I think there's a line obviously, but like I think it's pretty obvious when the line is crossed and when it's not.
yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that when refs make the inconsistent calls, that kind of impacts the game a lot, obviously. So you look at our game against St. Cloud, and I would say that the refs missed a couple calls, and then girls get frustrated, and like girls are going to go for blood.
Mhm.
So then it really shifts the dynamic of the game, and a game can become dirty really fast. So
Now, kind of transitioning from the refereeing side of like physical play in women's hockey, but what's the biggest check that you've ever thrown in a college hockey game? Because I think I find it hard to imagine playing 5 years in college hockey that you haven't accidentally like laid someone out before.
I honestly don't know if I have. Like I maybe like in a corner, but like I don't really think I
Mhm.
have. I know like some girls on our team definitely have. Um, but I feel like most of us probably haven't had like some big hit. I mean, I've probably taken a couple, but I don't think I've dished that many. So
Is it, do you, how do you, what's your mindset when you take a big hit? No one really talks about that. Everyone, like, I don't know, when I've played, I thought it was awesome when you got a big check, but no one really talks about what it's like when you take a big check. Like, you kind of try to bounce back from it. But, like, what's your thoughts on it?
yeah, I mean, I think you just got to get up and keep going. I mean, there's really
Mhm.
not much you can do if it's really bad. Obviously, they'll call it, but
Yeah.
I think sometimes like just collisions happen too, and if girls aren't paying attention, you might run into someone or something like that. But I think just get up and keep going, and if you're hurt, get off.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, transitioning from the physical side of the game to kind of the offensive side of the game, because you scored a great goal against Wisconsin last weekend. Shout out to you for that.
Thank you.
What was going through your head when you scored that goal and beating one of the best goalies in the country?
Yeah, I think I was obviously, I'm on a line with two really talented players, Gabby Smith and Taylor Nelson, and they're both sophomores this year, and they definitely stepped up their game from last year, and they've been doing so awesome for us this year. Um, and I think, we'd been knocking on the doorstep all Friday, and pretty much all of the first half of Saturday's game, we were creating chances, using our speed, getting behind their D, and it just wasn't clicking quite yet. And I just saw Taylor step out in front of Blair, and I think Blair finally poked it, and I was just planted up front, and I was like screaming for her to pass it. And I think just obviously Kennedy's, she's big, she's talented, so just getting that shot off quick. But Taylor and Gabby had an awesome forecheck. Taylor passed it through like four girls and a hockey stick and a goalie. Like I don't know how the puck got to me, but
Oh, yeah.
I think it was awesome. I think we needed that. It was little bit of momentum coming off the kill, and I think it was huge. Once again, just being able to score a goal and two goals against the number one team in the nation is something that we haven't been able to do often. So I think it was good.
I feel like Kennedy Blair doesn't get enough credit for how good Wisconsin is because everyone talks about their offense, and rightfully so. They have a lot of good offensive players, but I think the goaltending that she brings each game gives Wisconsin a chance to score all those goals because whenever every team's going to make defensive errors. It just happens. It's hockey, but she always seems to step up and makes the save to keep them in the game. I don't know if you've noticed that just playing against them.
Yeah, yeah. I think she's had a good career there. I think she's like I said, she's big. She's a sixth year, so she's played a lot of college hockey, and she has a lot of experience, and I think that really helps her. But their D are also really well. They're really the forwards too. They're really great in the D zone. They're just a really solid hockey team, offensively and defensively, and there's a lot of working parts for them that are just top level talent. And so yeah, it's really hard to score in this league. It's really hard to score against the top teams in the nation, and so I think being able to put up 3 goals against them this weekend was really big for us.
And is that the biggest improvement you've made to your game so far this year? Is kind of the offensive side of your game? Just from my perspective, I feel like you've improved a lot offensively. You're creating a lot of offensive chances. You're scoring a lot of goals. Like it's been really impressive to watch. Is that something that you think you've improved on a lot?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think just kind of coming off a kind of okay year last year. Obviously, we didn't play that many games, and our team wasn't able to score. I think our top two lines had maybe combined 20 points. I mean, no one was scoring last year. And this year, we're getting scoring from 3, 4 lines, which is huge. And so I think just, playing with confidence, playing with speed. I know that's something that Gabby Taylor and I talked about, was just funneling pucks at net, getting pucks past the D, just kind of working them, and just, playing with confidence. If you mess up, you mess up. But I think, the 2 games that we were able to play together, we got a lot of chances. We were generating a lot of shots. And so I think it'll be fun, going into this weekend against Mankato and just seeing, what we can do together before the first half is up.
And since the first half is wrapping up, I got to ask, what's your goals and expectations for yourself and for the team for the second half of the season?
Yeah, I think this week, like I said, this Mankato weekend's probably the biggest that we've had so far. And then we have a bye weekend that first weekend of January, and then we go 7 or 8 weeks straight. And so, just staying healthy, staying focused. Obviously, it gets to be long when you go that long without a bye weekend. But also just getting points every weekend needs to be an expectation. And I'm expecting everybody's best every single weekend. Every Friday and Saturday night will be huge. And we need to keep, putting the puck in the net. And obviously we can't be giving up 5 goals a game. So tightening up some things defensively. But I think the biggest thing will be points. We need to be emphasizing points every single weekend at home and on the road, because we got to start working our way up in the standings. So.
Stay positive, test negative, as they say. Are
Yeah.
you worried about COVID impacting the season? Because it feels like it's starting to impact a little bit of the NHL season, and some of the men's teams have had games postponed because of it. How are you trying not to think about it? But I feel like it's got to be in the back of your head.
Yeah, I think it is a bit. But I mean, we don't have any of the protocols that we did last year, unless, if you really don't feel well, they'll test you.
Hmm.
But if you're vaccinated, at least, that's what we've been told, is if we're vaccinated, then we're fine. So I haven't seen it too much in the women's game, having it be such a big impact. But obviously it would be a really big bummer if it ended up becoming an issue towards the end of the year. But I think we're all just, staying positive. We're all still pretty smart
Hmm.
about what we're doing. And I think that's been huge. It's just kind of doing our best to stay healthy, do what we can.
Oh, yeah. That's all you can do, really.
Yeah.
Now, is there any particular series you're looking forward to, since it could be your final time playing against some of these teams in college hockey?
Yeah, I would say I'm excited for one more series against Ohio State and
Hmm.
probably one more against Duluth. We always tend to do pretty well against Ohio State at home, and so we'll have them coming middle of February, and we go to Duluth in January. And Duluth is someone that I think my class has played 19 times in our career,
Hmm.
just because we typically have played them during playoffs. And so I think that'll be fun, because we typically have had a pretty good rivalry with them. Obviously, our series this fall did not go how we wanted at all. We kind of just lost control of that game. So I think, rebounding and kind of getting back at them would be great.
Yeah, kind of like revenge for this fall as well, having that
Mhm.
mindset as well. I don't know if that's what your team thinks about sometimes, but
Yeah.
sometimes I think about that when I play.
Yeah.
And I think it motivates me to become a better player.
I completely agree. I think that's definitely the mindset that we need to have going into the second half against, the top teams that we weren't competing with much at the start of the year.
Now, as a fifth year, I gotta ask, what's the academics like? Because if you only take one class, or is it kind of like for regular college, like an undergrad?
Yeah, so I think it's different for every fifth year, from my understanding. It kind of depends on your academic plan, or what you're going for. So our I don't even know what to call him, NCAA compliance guy said that I had to be in 12 credits a semester, which is honestly kind of a piece of cake. I think I was in 19 one semester. So 12 credits seems like nothing. So
Mhm.
it's just four classes. So I technically graduated last spring with my degree and my minor, and I'm back this year for 2 more degrees. So I'll have 24 credits.
Oh yeah.
I had 2 online and 2 in person this semester, and then I'm in 4 online classes next semester, which will be nice. Once the season's over, I'll have a lot more flexibility of if I want to do school up here, if I want to go back home to the cities for a bit. So
That's awesome. Yeah, racking up those degrees. Congrats on that. It
yeah,
seems
thank
pretty
you. I'm
cool for you.
the most educated fifth year ever.
Yeah, that's the goal though. That's why you're going to school, right? You want to get that degree. So you don't go to school just for hockey, which I think is surprising for some people. So
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, that's crazy how it's different for each fifth year. But it's kind of weird how they do credits too, because where I go to school, like one class is 1 credit, so you get 4 credits a semester. So when you say 12 credits, I'm like, man, that's a lot, but it's the same amount of classes I'm taking. It's just the way they do it is differently.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely. Are you on the quarter system?
I have no clue. I just know I take 4 classes a semester and get the 4 credits, and that'll help me graduate in 4 years, which is the goal. Which
Yeah.
is that. But I think that's how everyone does it. So
Okay. Yeah. So you're just following the plan.
yeah, well, I'm almost done. Next semester, I'm done with my general ed
Okay.
classes, which I'm so excited about. So I can finally focus on my major courses for next year, which is going
Yeah.
to be big relief for yours truly. Math this
Yeah.
semester has been not easy, but we're trying to get through it as best we can.
Yeah, I totally remember that. All the, the lib ed or the general requirements are just kind of a drag because they're
Well,
super
they're
random
just like high
topics
school.
about, yeah, they're really random. They are a little bit of everything. But I remember once I got into, my major courses, it was a lot more interesting. I feel like I'm actually learning something, not going to my 1 credit yoga class,
Oh yeah.
So
Is that what's the most interesting class you've taken, like in college, just like randomly? Because I had one this semester, and it was called like music cultures, and you're just like we learned about Hawaiian music last week, and it's just like so random.
yeah, I had, I'm trying to think, I think my sophomore, junior year, I was in a yoga class. I had to take a yoga class.
That sounds
Um,
fun though.
yeah, I've taken like a world music class, and I'm trying to think what else. I think there was one like a psychology, like a human sexuality class, which was
Mhm.
pretty random that a handful of us were in. But also kind of interesting. I don't know. So
Yeah. I took a
pretty
mindfulness
cool.
class a couple semesters ago, and that was fun. I thought that was really interesting, actually, how like to learn skills to like keep yourself like I don't know mindful. I guess I thought it was really interesting because we talked about sports psychology as well, which is something I'm somewhat interested in. So that
Yeah,
was that. There's some of them that pop up that are really interesting, but then there's
yeah,
some that are just oh my gosh, they're brutal. Like this is some of these classes I was forced to take. Man, it's been tough. Math especially.
yeah.
I have a final coming up for that. It's been nonstop studying. So
Oh my gosh, yeah. I hated my math classes. I haven't had to take one since freshman year, thank God. But
yeah, you're lucky. Hopefully, once I'm done with this, it's my last one. So, but
right,
that's why I'm excited about Christmas break coming up. It's like I need a month off from
yeah,
doing any academics because that's all I've been doing really for the
I
past
know.
month.
You're almost there.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And then hockey wise, what's like the biggest thing you've learned about yourself as a player as a fifth year? I feel like you've been through it all, but is there anything new that's come up for yourself?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily new. I think just having found like a new confidence in, being a fifth year, I'm not as worried about, I don't need to learn the systems. I don't need to really learn anything new. It's kind of just like fine tuning it for all of us upperclassmen. And, just playing with, like I said, kind of like a newfound confidence. Whether that's on the kill or 5-on-5, I think that's been huge. And I think I'm not just for myself. I think that's been a lot of us older girls have kind of hit a new level, which is good.
So we're now in the segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, as you're well aware of. However, this segment's a little bit different because I just found random questions online, and
Okay.
I'm interested to see your opinions on it. I just try to pick some random stuff. So, the first question is a hockey-related question, though, and it is, what were your thoughts on Trevor Zegras' Michigan assist against Buffalo?
Yeah, that was obviously insane. I think super creative. Like I would have literally never thought to do that ever. I think it's extremely impressive just kind of how young both of them are and that they could pull it off. Is probably one of the best assists, if not the best one ever.
Hmm.
In the history. And I also think it's just cool, it happened whatever night, and literally the next morning there was videos of, college players doing it, little kids doing it, boys, girls doing it. And I think that's cool too. You kind of just see the impact of these young, talented hockey players, their impact on, younger kids growing up. And so I think it's kind of cool. It's just like these younger generations are going to be so creative on the ice because they have all these insanely talented people to look up to that are kind of just making things up as they go. And so I think it was cool. I think the impact that it had is, I mean, honestly, probably even cooler. So
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome to see kind of the younger generation of players who are in my age range, like starting to have impact on the NHL because Trevor Zegras, he's like 1 or 2 years older than me, which is crazy to think about. And just first of all, I don't know how Buffalo gave him the time and space to actually pull that off. Like playing hockey in my career, like I don't remember having any time at all to pull something like that off or else
yeah,
without being checked or like pushed against the boards. So, but it was really cool to see it. One of the best goals ever, and his reaction when he was just like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
Like this, that was like the coolest part. And then his
Yeah.
post game interview afterwards was super funny to listen to too, because he's just like you could see that youthful energy that he has, and he seems to embrace the California vibe as well. I don't know if you thought about that with the long hair and kind of
Yeah.
just about everything. So I don't know. He's definitely gonna be he's gonna be like a guy who's in the All-Star game every year in the NHL.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I think just I mean, obviously it was all over Twitter and even just I think there was a couple that were just like his highlights from, his impact in the NHL so far, just because he
Mhm.
is so young and he has a lot of, goals or assists where it's like, oh my gosh, like how did he even do that? Or when did he like that thought even cross his mind? So yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think he's gonna have a long and awesome career in the NHL because he's done nothing but impress so
Oh
far.
yeah. Did you see John Tortorella's comments on it where he thinks it's bad for the game?
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous. One, first of all, I think it's great for the game. When does a goal hurt the growth of hockey? Never. And I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of that older generation just gets upset about it, which is, I think sometimes hurts the game a little bit. I think we
Yeah.
need change. And I think it's important to try to do things because it helps elevate the game. Because I'm assuming back like 50 years ago, people thought the slap shot was bad for the game. People
Hmm.
thought, like Pavel Datsyuk might have been bad for the game, but ultimately it helps the game grow and gets new fans. So I don't know what he was talking about. I just didn't know if you heard that.
Yeah, no, I hadn't, but I mean, I agree with you. I think the game is ever changing. The game's evolving. It's faster, more skilled, more physical, whatever it might be. And so I think you either gotta, change with it, or you're going to be left behind.
Hmm.
I think you
It's
see that in the women's game, you see that in the college game, you see that obviously now in the NHL. It's changing. So like you either got to change with it, or it's not going to work.
no more hockey for you. Yeah, no, it happens in music. Like if you just keep doing the same thing over and over
Yeah,
again, it just people get complacent about it. And new people, like
exactly.
I think the greatest hockey players are always like try to elevate their games and try to get better every day, and
Hmm.
that's why they're so successful. Which that's why Ovechkin's so much fun to watch because at 36 years old he's still scoring so many goals and he's still trying
Yeah,
new things. And I feel like if he kept doing the same thing, he would have been out of the league in like 5 years just because people would
yeah.
have caught on. So I think that's what separates the great players from the not so great players.
I completely agree. Yeah.
Now, next non-hockey question: which arena has the best warm-up mix?
This is hard. I would say I'm trying to think of the ones this year. I think St. Cloud had a pretty good one this year. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go St. Cloud. I think I liked theirs the best.
Any what songs do they play? Is it like EDM? Like sometimes
It's kind
I
of like
think
a
the EDM
mashup.
can get a little too much with like some of these remixes. Like, oh,
Yeah,
can we just add some like pop songs or some hip hop songs? But
yeah,
I think when it's a good balance of both, that's what makes a warm-up mix the best.
yeah. I think this one was yeah, kind of like that healthy combo. I think it might be Duluth. There's one I don't remember where, but yeah, it's just too much. There's just too much going on, and it gets a bit hard to focus.
Hmm.
But I really liked St. Cloud's. I think there was like a volume issue when we were there
Hmm.
just a couple weekends ago, but when we played them in our exhibition game in September, I really liked it. It was good. So
Yeah. What's the worst warm-up mix? Or you can't say since you're still playing college hockey.
yeah, I don't know. I
Maybe it's a
guess
non-conference team. You never know. You can let it out.
I know. I don't I guess I don't really remember the schools out east, but like maybe like I don't really remember like RPIs but I don't remember loving it either. So
Yeah, I know.
like a RPI or like a union. I mean, I don't really know. I feel
Yeah,
like everyone in our league that I can like remember, typically they're pretty good. So
that's good. That's good. Now, next non-hockey question is about some of your teammates. Who is the quietest on the Bemidji State women's hockey team?
the quietest, I feel like maybe Abby Thompson. She's a freshman. I think she's definitely coming out of her shell a bit, but I'd say she might be the quietest because the other classes are all just insanely loud or chatty or
Yeah.
I would say her.
Is how do you try do you think it's important to like I guess like help her break or other players who are like that like help get them out of their shell and start talking just because you kind of feel bad since they seem like shy about everything?
Yeah, I think yeah, she's very, very shy. She's a goalie, so I know that she's really kind of like opened up and bonded with the other goalies. And so one of them is my roommate. She's the fifth year goalie. Um, and I think it's nice to have an older girl, maybe in the same position as you to kind of take under your like take like be under Kerrigan's wing and learn from her and talk to her. And but like I said, she's definitely come out of her shell quite a bit. We got her to finally play sewer with us before the games. And, but yeah, she's a sweetheart. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like goalies, it's hard because it's such a unique position that it's hard to, like, when you talk about practice, like, you can't relate to the
Yeah.
goalie stuff just because they're doing different drills. So I think
Yeah,
that's another part of it as well.
exactly. I agree.
Now, I guess that who's the loudest on the team, or is it kind of just everyone?
Oh boy. I feel like there's probably a handful. I guess maybe Taylor Nelson.
Mhm.
She's a sophomore. She's just full of energy. She calls herself the Nelly. Like she's constantly talking, screaming, laughing, dancing. I mean, she's just full of energy. So I would say her. She's funny though.
What is your guilty pleasure song?
Oh boy, my guilty pleasure song. Um, I guess like my guilty pleasure would be like I love like Akon or like early. I think I'd said that I love like
I think you
early
did, yeah.
2000s. So that's like kind of like our team like during sewer like we'll play a lot of like the early 2000s like some like Baby Bash or like Akon, T-Pain, like just the kind of that vibe. Um, yeah, I guess maybe like that'd be like my guilty pleasure. I don't know.
I think I also mentioned this in the podcast, but there's one album that he has. It's the one where he's in the suit, like on the boat. You
Yeah,
know what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
But like, there's like 8 straight songs where it's just banger, banger, banger.
yeah.
Like right now,
Exactly.
beautiful.
Yeah,
It's like nonstop. Like that. It's very rare where I can say that about album because usually every album there's like 5 songs where I'm like I'm just gonna skip through it.
yeah.
I don't like this
This
one.
is for me. Yeah,
But like 8 straight of them, it's just like banger,
yeah,
banger. I gotta find it sometime. But like
yeah. I think it's like Freedom. I'm actually.
that's the name of the
Is
album.
that?
But
Okay, I was
like
gonna say I'm gonna look
I'll
it up.
find it. But like. There's
Um,
some like it's like 5 straight songs where it's like nothing
yeah,
but good.
that's like definitely the vibe that we go with sometimes. Like during sewer is all like early 2000s, kind of like throwback because I feel like everyone knows the words. It's typically like a fun beat or like tune, and so everyone can kind of get into it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the album now, right now. That's a good song. Beautiful. That's a good song. Keep You Much Longer. That's a good song.
Good
I'm
one.
So Paid. That got to get you hyped up for games.
Yeah.
And so, but my favorite Akon song, I don't know if it's technically his song. It's called Who Dat Girl. It's with
Oh yeah.
Flo Rida. It was
Yeah.
in a Parks and Recs episode. That's how I discovered it. But it's like it was like one of my most listened to songs this year.
Yeah, whenever it came out, I this is like back when like my family had like a desktop in the office and I remember it had came out and I don't even know how I heard it. I think my older brother and I heard it on the radio. And then we literally like looked up the lyrics on YouTube and just like sat in the office like reading the screen and we'd like rewind until we like had the words down.
Mhm.
And then like, we'd play it in the car. My mom was like, "How do you two like know this song?" Or like
Yeah.
we're like we've been practicing for hours,
Oh
so
yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
that's definitely one that I know the words to still.
yeah, that I remember the music. I saw the music video for that recently. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so old because I remember when the song came out. But like, if you watch the music video, they have like iPods. Like, it's like a whole like
Yeah,
the way the
crazy.
camera is. I'm
Like,
like,
I
oh
mean,
my gosh, this
I
is
was
so a
probably
little
like
bit outdated.
11, so it's probably at least like 10, 12 years
Oh,
old.
it's 10 years old. I'm pretty. It's gotta be. It might be more than 10. But no, it's a good song though. I'm
Yeah,
still playing it. So, but no,
no,
that's one of my
yeah,
favorite by him. Like just that chorus like gets me going all the time.
right? I
Yeah.
agree. That's definitely on our playlist.
I guess mine is probably some Justin Bieber stuff. Love the guy. I think he makes some good songs. So I
That's
guess
like
that's a guilty pleasure
good.
for me.
I definitely like go through phases. I've been into I'm like a big music person. Like
Me
I
too.
love like playlists and like so I'm typically like I'll be on aux a lot in the locker room or something. But my thing during like while I've been studying for finals is so I'm on Spotify. I don't know if you're like Apple Music or Spotify.
I'm a
But
Spotify person.
okay, yeah, me too. So I'll just like type in like an artist. So I'll just go like Justin Bieber and then just hit play and it kind of just like shuffles like literally every single album that he ever
Hmm.
has on Spotify. So I've been doing like that and then I'll go to like Polo G to like take like I'm just like all over the board. And like so I remember like I was at the library the other day and Paige was like, what are you listening to like while you're studying? And it was just like some hardcore like rap song. And I'm like casually studying about like labor and unions. Like this just really doesn't match. But
Yeah.
that's like my Tuesday choice was, some Polo G. So
Yeah. Well, I don't know like what your Spotify Wrapped was like, but for mine, like my 5 artists were like it was like Juice World, trying to think who else, like Lil Baby, and then it was Lil Uzi Vert, and then it was like Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
like just like random artists.
Yeah, I think Justin Bieber was one of my top ones too, but I was kind of laughing with Paige, so obviously Paige and I hang out a lot, but my like top 5 songs were all like if a normal person looked at them, they'd be like, Lindsay, you listen to the most depressing music over and over and over again, because my top 5 songs were all like super super sad, but
Yeah.
I just really like sad music, so like a whole playlist like called Sad Girl, and they're all just like super sad songs like sang by girls, and so like literally like I was like my top 5 songs were like You Broke Me First, I Hate You, I Love You. Like I was like, it looks like I was like going through it this year,
Yeah.
but I'm just listening to sad music.
Yeah, well, I will say this. I think breakup music is sometimes a lot better than like love songs. Like
I
that's why I
agree.
like Juice WRLD, because like he has some good breakup songs where you just like it's good sometimes I think to let it out. So,
I agree completely.
but like I'm fine. Like I don't know. I just like sometimes some of the songs are good. So
Yeah, no, like my so I like there's like 6 of us in my family, and my mom had like sent hers in the group message, and she was like, everyone send like your Spotify Wrapped or whatever, and my whole family's sending them, and they're like normal songs or like country, and mine was literally like so embarrassing. I was like, oh my gosh, like you guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but
Mhm. Yeah.
oh
So
well.
yeah, those that's kind of I feel like I guess a lot of the music I listen to is guilty pleasure, but I have playlists of like each genre. So whatever I'm in the
Yep.
mood, and I would just go to that playlist, and I usually listen to it when I'm like driving the car. So
Yep.
or just like doing schoolwork. But I listen to a ton of music this year. I don't know if it's that bad, but that's all I do when I'm not like doing anything else.
Yeah, like my roommate, Kerrigan never listens to music. So like we'll get in her car and she's just silent. And I'm like,
That's so bad. I can't
yeah,
do
I'm
that.
like radio or like give me the aux, or and then there's me, and like I'll turn it on so that I can like listen to it while I walk upstairs to like
Mhm.
pour my cup of coffee. Like it's just outrageous. I'm like always need something on, or
I can do it when talking too. Like I can have a
oh
conversation with someone in the car. I just need like some sort of background noise. I can't have
literally,
it dead silent.
no, it drives me crazy. Like
Yeah.
I need you to like turn something
Just
on.
turn a podcast on or something.
Yeah,
Maybe College Hockey Talk. That's
I
a good
tell you that. I'll be like,
yeah.
hey, Karen, I have a podcast for you.
Yeah. It's good. I don't know. I'm trying to think who I've had from Bemidji on. I've had Claire on before.
Okay,
She's
yeah,
obviously not on the team, but you can
yeah,
listen to that episode. It came out this year. So
yeah,
I'm trying to think. Haley Blinkhorn was on too. So
yeah. Good old Haley.
Nina Steigoff. So a couple high school friends. So there's a
Yeah,
few episodes that she can listen to if she's interested
I know.
in.
I should tell her.
So next non-hockey question is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Oh my gosh. Trying to think. Maybe like she might be like a little old to play me, but I feel like Jennifer Lawrence is pretty funny. Like I
Hmm.
feel like she and just like I mean, I obviously don't know her personally, but I feel like the articles I've read about her, she seems like pretty funny, or like does funny things while she makes movies. So maybe her. I don't know. I feel like
Hmm.
she's like kind of like cool, kind of a beauty. So
So I actually kind of thought about this question like recently, and I've said different answers in the past, but I think I came up with one good answer. And for me, it'll be The Rock. Now I know I look absolutely nothing like The Rock. I'm definitely way skinnier than The Rock as well. But he's such a likable guy, and I think that'd be so cool to have The Rock play me in a movie. So that's who I would go with.
I like that. Which he is very likable, and he's very like well known. Like
Hmm.
he's
Like
just
I've never met someone that hates The Rock. Like he's a
yeah.
good dude. So that's who I would pick.
I like that pick. That's a good one.
Now, next non-hockey question is, this is kind of a funny one, but how can you tell if someone has a good sense of humor?
Um, I feel like if someone has a good sense of humor, they're pretty funny, just like right off the bat. But I
Hmm.
also think that like I'm a pretty sarcastic person, and so or just like I mean, I obviously have brothers, so like sometimes like I'm just like kind of ruthless, and I don't mean to be. It's just like my sense of humor. And so like I remember I don't even know what I said, but I said it to one of the freshmen, and like they can like give it back to you, you know? So I
Hmm.
feel like if someone's like got a sense of humor, they're able to like take it and give it.
Yeah,
Um,
understand the sarcasm a little bit.
yeah, you know, because otherwise it's like if someone doesn't, then I'm like scratching my head, like, is that
Just super
rude?
awkward.
I apologize now, or like, are,
Yeah.
is this awkward now, or I don't know. What do you
Mhm.
think?
For me, I don't know, probably someone that just like, I feel like I can't really explain it, but like when you talk to someone, you just feel it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, where there's just like a good connection, like you're
Yeah.
swapping jokes, you're making fun of each other, that's kind
Banter.
of how I tell it.
Good banter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think I like one of my best friends that I met in high school, like first time we talked, I think I made like a sarcastic joke about it, and he just starts dying laughing. And that's like kind of like how got
Mhm.
started. So something like that when you can like just laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
So,
I
and just not
completely.
take things too seriously, because in the world today there's so much bad stuff going on. It's just nice to meet someone or some people that just don't take it too seriously and just can have a good
Yeah,
time. That's how I feel about it.
I completely agree. I think that's good.
Now, next non-hockey question: what is your most hated sports team
My most hated sports
in
team.
professional sports? We won't talk about college,
Okay.
obviously.
In professional sports.
I'll go with my answer first. The Vancouver Canucks. I know there's a lot of BC people that listen to this. I'm sorry, but I'm a big Bruins fan. And when they played them in the Stanley Cup final, that team I just couldn't stand. They were just Alexander Burrows biting Bergeron.
Yeah.
Some of the just the banter I did not like. And then how they threw a riot after they lost the Stanley Cup. Just
Okay.
that team kind of bothers me a little bit. So I guess I just ruined my chances of getting a job with the Canucks. But I that
But
just.
plenty of
But
other.
if they do offer me a job in the future, I'll totally accept. And I love the city of Vancouver.
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one. I feel like I don't know if I like have a hockey team that I like don't like. I feel like I have like the teams that like I really enjoy watching, and then like the other ones I'm just like pretty indifferent to, just kind of like I don't really hate you, I don't really love you.
There's not like a football team that you just despise. Like I'm a
I,
Patriots fan. Everyone
I
hates
feel like
us.
I don't like love the Packers. Like
Hmm.
I just like don't really love them.
Aaron
But
Rodgers,
I
all that
also just, like,
stuff.
don't really love the Vikings because they're just like a constant letdown. And it's like every year us Minnesotans are like, this is the year. Like they're gonna bring it home for us. And then they suck. And it's just like a recurring cycle, like Minnesota sports teams. Woo. Um, but yeah, maybe like the Packers. I don't know if I love the Bruins. I
Oh my gosh,
think they're
that's
fun.
my team. That's how I fell in love with hockey. I don't know.
I
That
know.
hurts me a
I
little bit.
don't know if I love them though. Like I don't know. Sometimes I get like weird vibes. But because I feel like there's been like some controversial things. Like who's the little guy who like
Brad
Mark
Marchand, first of all, he gets hated on way too much. The guy hasn't done like really any disciplinary issues in like the
isn't he
past
the one
5 years.
that licked
He's
someone? Or
he
like
slew footed someone, but the guy didn't get hurt, and then he went off injured someone else. That's a whole thing with the NHL safety department. But Marchand's a goal scorer. He's a Hall of Famer. He's won a gold medal, Stanley Cup. Like the guy's like one of the best players to ever live. I don't understand why he gets hated on. And if you like watch videos of him, he seems like such a funny, great guy. I love Marchand. That's like one of my favorite
you're
players.
like
I'm
that's my
sorry defending
guy.
about
You're like
him.
how dare you? Like that's my boy over there. Um, yeah, I don't know. Uh I'd probably say them though.
All right. So I don't know. I don't know what I meant. I don't, the Bruins don't play the Wild that often, so I can't say anyone on the Wild. I don't know if you've noticed that too. They barely play them, but
Yeah, they barely play. The Warriors
so
are doing good this year though. They've been fun.
that's true.
Going to
Kaprizov.
their game against Detroit on the
That should be
23rd.
fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I haven't been to an NHL game in a long time. I usually just go to college, but I should try to
Mm.
go to one this year. I know the Bruins. I don't know. I have to find a team. That's the thing. I don't know if whenever I go to NHL games, it's the team who they play. Like, what would be the
Yeah,
better game?
we actually went to the Blues Columbus game, the St. Louis Columbus game when we played in Lindenwood. We had stayed that Saturday night and went to that game in St. Louis and then bussed home, and that was super fun. We hadn't been to an NHL game in so long,
Yeah.
so that was super fun. And then my parent, like my whole family went to the Minnesota Nashville game, and so Kerrigan and I were like, do we drive home for it and just like then drive back like right after, or what do we do? And so then finally my mom was like, we'll just try to get tickets over Christmas break and you guys can go, which now it's perfect because they've been doing so well,
Yeah.
and so it'll be super fun because I'd imagine there's just gonna be a bunch of excitement about them. Like in the past we've just sucked, so
Yeah. Do you feel the same way? Because whenever I go to Bruins games, I like seeing Western Conference teams because they don't really come to Boston that often. Do you feel the same way with Eastern Conference teams because they don't really come to Minnesota that often?
I would say yeah. I think that's like those games would be fun. Or if they had like a good like rivalry team, but like I feel like they haven't really had a rivalry team in a while just because they've been so bad
Hmm.
and you can't really have a rival if you're just constantly losing and losing.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm just like excited to go this year because they're just so good and like they're just like a completely different team than it was a couple years ago, and so I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, well, hopefully when the Bruins play them, they win. That'll be kind of fun. So,
Yeah, right? Oh,
and
why?
Marshawn will score a few goals as well.
Oh, no,
He's
no.
not playing the next 6 games. He's in COVID protocol, so you can watch the Bruins without
Perfect.
getting to watch him. So,
Perfect.
and then last non-hockey question, and this is kind of a fun one. What is the craziest dream you've ever had? And if you need me to
Craziest
tell you mine, I'll go first so you can think about it.
dream. Yeah, you go first.
So the craziest dream that I ever had happened in this room actually, because that's where I was sleeping. But basically, like I woke up and I was in a dream, but then when I woke up from the dream, I was still dreaming. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it looked exactly what my room would look like in the middle of the night. And back in the day, I was an early bird. Like I would wake up like at 4:30 in the morning and just go downstairs. Like I didn't have the concept of like sleeping in when I was like in elementary school. But in this
Mhm.
dream, I woke up and I was in a dream and I went up to get some water and opened the door and my sister's just standing there and just like go back to bed and just starts chasing me and I freaked out and I just remember waking up from that and like making sure like this is real life, but I was so scared after that. And I just remember seeing my sister that day and just being like terrified to talk to her. So that's
Yeah,
probably the craziest dream that I ever had. I can't really remember too many of them though.
I know. Okay, I can't actually. I had like two other ones that I was like, those aren't that funny, and I totally forgot that I did this. So, I wish I had like a picture on my phone to show you. So, I was probably like, I was in high school, so probably like maybe like my sophomore year, yeah, probably like my sophomore year of high school. And it was more of like a nightmare, like that I was on like a operating table. Like I woke up in like an operating table, like in a giant bubble. Like I kind of picture like the squirrel from SpongeBob's house, like, and I like couldn't get out. And so I was like literally screaming in my dream, which I feel like I must have been in real life too. And I was like swinging my arms, like karate chopping, trying to like get out of this bubble. And I woke up the next morning and I had like a paper lantern, like a 5 foot tall like paper lantern in half. Like I karate chopped my lamp in half, like trying to like get out of this bubble. And it just like my mom kept it there for years. Like she never even like threw it out. She tried to like hockey tape it back together because like she thought it was funny that I
Yeah.
like karate chopped it in my sleep. But that's probably the craziest one I've had because normally they're like not that exciting or not that fun. But
Oh
this
yeah.
one apparently I was fighting something and I don't know.
I
So
feel like most of my dreams are just playing hockey. I don't know if you have that, but like
yeah.
I just have dreams of me just playing
Or
hockey.
or they're just like super like realistic and so they're not
Yeah.
really that crazy. Like I always have dreams that I'm like texting somebody and then I wake up and I'm like, please tell me I didn't text them or like I didn't like this or I
Yeah.
had like a dream on Friday night. My parents came with us to the men's game Friday and so then that night like I had a dream that one of the pucks like went over the glass and I like dove in front of my mom to save her and I was like Saturday morning I was like you should be thanking me forever and she was like why and I was like I
Yeah.
saved you in my dream like
Yeah.
that's normally how mine are. They're pretty like boring and or I don't
Yeah.
remember them, but
I never remember them. Like I think there was only two dreams I can remember. It's that one and then one where I was getting chased by a werewolf at a Formula One race, which I guess
okay.
might be crazier than that one, but
Yeah,
those are the only two ones I can remember for like
I
other
know.
than
I
that,
don't
they're all the same. But I should write them down. I think that'll be interesting to kind of read back.
yeah, I actually had to do that for a psychology class in high school. It was like a dream journal and it was like if you woke up because typically it's like when you wake up right away, it's like you remember it, you know?
Mhm.
If you are going to remember it. And so she was like, write it down right away. And then you can like go back and look and certain things mean certain things. I don't really know if that made sense, but
Yeah,
it
no.
is kind of interesting though.
Oh yeah,
There's actually
definitely.
like meaning behind it, which is kind of cool.
Well, back to some hockey questions now, or a few ones. But my question is, what were your thoughts on the podcast since we last had you on? Today's evaluation day for me, so I'm just curious to get your thoughts on the podcast that we had you on. If you had the chance to listen to it, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was. It was really good. Yeah, I think it's fun. Obviously you've had like a couple other Minnesota girls, a couple people like I went to high school with, a couple other like college teammates. And so
Hmm.
I think it's fun just, you know, listening to their interviews. Because
Hmm.
I think it's just fun listening to people you know. But yeah, I think you've done awesome. You know, you've gotten so many different people, like men's, women's, different leagues, different teams, which I think is cool. Just kind of hearing everybody's different perspective on I mean, I'd say the more the women's game than the men's. But yeah, I think you've done awesome. I think it's really good.
Yeah, awesome. I'm trying to think if I had any men's Bemidji State players on. Aaron Miller on last year. He's an awesome guy. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know him.
Yeah.
He had a great mustache on when we did our interview with him.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
if he always had it before, but it was like the best facial hair I've ever seen. So that's
Yeah.
that's what
It is,
I remember from that interview.
yeah. Like he'd shave and we'd all go to the rink and we're like, Aaron, look your face. Like
Yeah.
he's normally like long hair, like full face. And then he'd chop his hair and shave his face. We're all like, are you feeling all right? What's going on? Like, is
Yeah.
this sort of punked or like what? But yeah, he's funny. He's a character and a half.
Oh
So
yeah. And he also played well against Wisconsin in the tournament and
yeah.
helped them get that upset, which was awesome to see.
Yeah.
So
That was an awesome game. They had a couple awesome games last year.
oh yeah. And now they're in that new conference too. So that it must be fun for you to watch them play in that.
Yeah, it's been fun so far, just kind of, like I said, it's more just being back in the rink and
Oh
being able
yeah.
to go do something on like a Friday night after one of our games. But it's just, I mean, I think, obviously the men's side, the games are so good, so competitive. Anyone can beat anybody. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of been fun to be back in that environment. And they're obviously doing pretty well, so.
Now, is there any guests that we should have on in the future? I feel like I've had a lot of maybe we should have any returning guests in the future. That's another thing.
I know. I feel like I have a friend on Princeton, maybe like Mariah Keppel on Princeton. She'd be cool. Get like an Ivy League.
I've had a few Ivy Leagues, yeah.
Yeah.
They're very interesting though, but like you have to find the right time to interview them because they're so busy
They're
with
literally.
academics.
I know. I'm trying to think, or like if there's like any boys that would be good too, but I don't know. Maybe like Julia Nearest at Boston University. I don't know if Haley brought her up, but
Oh, she did. That's the most requested guest on the podcast. I gotta reach out to her.
yeah, like she would be a riot and a half. She'd
Mhm.
be fun to talk to.
I've had her sister on, Abby, so
Yeah.
I have to get Julia on now.
I
So
agree. I think you have to. I think she'd be awesome.
yeah, no, but so that's some good. I've been very fortunate to have some great guests on, so
Yeah.
it's been fun. But I always like to hear because I feel like you know them more than I do because I see them through a screen just playing
Yeah.
hockey, but you know them like off the ice, so that's why I like to ask.
Yeah, I'd say Julia Nearest is for sure a must.
Now, what are some things I guess you took away from the interview last time we had you on and today? I'm just curious now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fun. I think it's good because I feel like I normally don't I'm not asked these questions or like I don't really talk about these things, and so I think it's just kind of fun to like share my thoughts and hear your thoughts, and you're obviously very fun to talk to because
I
it's been
appreciate that.
over an hour, which is good. Yeah, very easy to talk to.
Well, I
And
appreciate that.
questions are very good.
Well, I'm trying to get better at that because I don't know if you ever see the first ever interview I did. It was very nerve-wracking from yours truly. I was terrible. I was so nervous. It was one of my favorite players in college hockey. That was my first ever interview. Carter Turnbull. I'm a big UConn hockey fan.
Okay.
And he was one of my favorite players. He's now the captain of the team, but he was the first ever guest I had on, and I was so nervous when I did this interview. Like it was only like 12 minutes long. Because I just didn't know what to do like after I asked all the questions because normally now I know like you can like try to like do stuff in between the questions. It's like kind of a process to learn like how to interview people.
Yeah.
But I was so nervous. I was like, there was just one question that I couldn't get out. And I was like, so like what type of adjustments were you trying to, it was bad, but I feel like I've improved significantly from that. And it's funny to look back on the interview today.
No, for sure. And I think obviously I think it's like a good skill for us to have, but I'm sure for you too, it's just been so beneficial, like going, like once obviously you said you're going to graduate in a couple of years and just, getting out into the real world, like you're going to be so well set, like getting into when you're being interviewed and like you're able to converse and ask like the interviewers questions as well. Like I think that'll be so beneficial for you. Like I can only imagine. I'm like jealous, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's partly why I started this is to gain some experience in that and also to get connections in hockey as well since I didn't really have any. So that's kind of like I think I've succeeded a little bit in that. Obviously, I'm still trying to improve, but I think the big thing with starting anything, this goes to hockey or podcasting or whatever, is no one wants to hear this, but you're going to suck when you begin. That happens to everyone. Yeah. You're going to struggle. You're going to make mistakes, but it's kind of like just knowing that you're not doing well, but just trying to get through it. So I did a lot of interviews in the beginning and they're not great, but I'm very proud of myself for knowing that I'm not doing that well, but still kind of continuing going through them and still reaching out and still trying to build those connections, trying to be as best I can. I feel like that's helped me a lot doing this
Yeah.
podcast, and it goes with everything, hockey,
Yeah.
job, whatever. So that's one advice I would give anyone who's trying
Yeah.
to do anything.
No, I really like that. I think that's like a good like mindset, a good outlook on it, because it is true. And I feel like the best like successes come from failure, you
Hmm.
know? So I think that this will be something like wherever you end up, like in 10 years from now, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I started that podcast 10, 11,
Hmm.
12 years ago. Like it was so beneficial. I think that's a great mindset. Like, and I just feel like the skills that you're getting out of this and the experience is just unmatched, you know?
Oh yeah.
Where else are you going
That's
to get those skills?
That's definitely the goal. That's definitely the goal. Now, last thing is anything you would like to talk about. The floor is all yours. Normally I do shout outs, but I will say Haley Blinkhorn did shout you out, so you might have to shout her out in this episode. That's all one little suggestion. And I'll shout out Nina Steigoff as well because she's been killing it with Quinnipiac.
Oh yeah, I'll shout out both of them because I'll probably see them like next week when I go home. So yeah, shout out Neens, Baby Tut, and shout out Hales. And I'm gonna shout out Julia Neris again because I want her on the podcast. I think she'd be a great time.
Awesome. I'll definitely reach out then in a few weeks from now.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
think you did.
I will say this: the Blinkhorn interview, she shouted you out, and then that weekend she got her first college hockey goal. So I'm trying to help her out, trying to boost get the college hockey tongue bump for working for her for the second half of the season.
Yeah, go Hales. I know she's had I think 2 or 3 nice goals this year.
Oh
So
yeah, she's been killing it. So
yeah.
you've been killing it as well too. So thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it. Like I've said this before, I think you're such a great player, but you're also an even better person off the ice. And I talked about this with Kara. I'm like, she's one of my favorite players on Bemidji State women's hockey, and it's been awesome to see the success that you're having this year. And I wish you nothing but the best after for this season and for your future hockey endeavors or non-hockey endeavors as well.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I love that.
Awesome. Well, one thing